I'm curious to know, how many of you are actually from Augusta? Wow, that's a good number.
Does that still count?
That totally counts. So that's my point. One of the most remarkable things about Mr. Chestnut, Ben, it's okay to talk?
Lynsey,
Ben,
please.
is he's actually from Augusta. So what was it like to be born and raised in Augusta?
It was great. I mean, my father was in the military, stationed at Fort Worth. We lived outside of Gate 5. Any Gate 5 people here? Yeah. Town and country, Barrington. That's where I grew up. So, I mean, I remember going fishing a lot, Clark's Hill. I remember riding my bike all the time in the woods.
That's
There was a huge forest, and now it's just, what is it, Crystal Lakes or Diamond Lakes now? We used to have so much fun outdoors. And then my father also went to Augusta College. Back then it was called Augusta College. We would come on campus, and I would love to see all the computer labs that he got to learn computer science in. And gosh, anytime we got to go to Fort Thorp, you know, just see all the tanks and all the cool machinery out there. It's really inspiring.
Tanks, wow. And your wife too, didn't you meet your wife here?
That's right. She lived in the next neighborhood, and she went to MCG.
MCG?
Yeah, she studied nursing.
Wow, amazing.
We're high school sweethearts. We actually met in a karate class in Fort Worth.
Black belt,
Fell in love with her there, and we just stayed connected. And, yeah. So,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So did you always have the idea of starting a big tech startup company from even the days when you were in Augusta?
I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. My mother was an entrepreneur. She ran a salon in our kitchen at home. So I got to see her making money all the time and serving the community. So entrepreneurship really wasn't a word, it was just sort of a way of life for us, just making money for family. So that was always something in me. And my father also, he wanted to start a business, but he was always, really busy. He had family to support, so he never really could get it. He would always talk about, every time we went on a fishing trip, he would talk about what kind of business he would like to start one day. So I think it was always in my destiny to start a company. Yeah.
So we actually have a lot of Hope College of business students in the audience.
Very
so
cool.
How did you take this tech startup company from what it was to being a multi-billion-dollar company?
We don't have enough time to talk about that. It's my partner and I, we wanted to build a better mousetrap. It was really important to build great technology that helps small business do their newsletters. And we were just totally obsessed and fascinated with making a better product, and then talking to customers and asking, is this good enough? And they would say yes, no, and then we would go back and tweak it, and we would show it to them, and we would tweak it again. It's a feedback loop that we created. That's a very important feedback loop that we were just obsessed with, and it was just this amazing cycle that we put together. That energy that we put into that, building a better mousetrap, I always put the same amount of energy into building a brand. I wanted Mailchimp to be a global brand as well. So my mother ran this salon in the kitchen. She didn't care about going global, but me, I was like, you could be Vidal Sassoon. You can extend it to shampoo and scissors, and we can go global. So it was all about branding for me growing up. And I guess my sister was into advertising and branding, so I just sort of absorbed all of that. It's lucky to be the last kid sometimes in a long chain. You just absorb everything your big brothers and sisters learn.
Sure. So was Mailchimp the one business that you had focused on, or had you started with something else?
You bring up a good point. I mean, I know a lot of people who start a business and they start to get some success, and then they get distracted. Because a world of opportunities opens up for you when you get a little successful. But I read a really good book called Crossing the Chasm, and Jeffrey Moore talks about how just when you think it's time to jump the chasm and start expanding, no, that's when you hunker down and stay just a little longer and innovate harder in the industry you're in. And I took that advice seriously, and I just focused on one thing. And to this day, some of my peers who started businesses at the same time, they'll tell me, like, the thing you did different was you just said no. You just said no to everything except your business. So, yeah, maybe it's not the better mousetrap or the brand. Maybe it's just focus. I don't know. that's definitely a big part of it.
So would you say, you said you brought up the chasm, and that's an interesting point. So that to me says risks. What sort of risks did you have to face in order to start or really take you up into where it was going?
Oh, I mean, to me, I look back and I don't know that it was any. We didn't have it wasn't super expensive to start a SaaS company. Like, you don't need tons of hardware. You can run it on your laptop, and you need a few servers somewhere. Now that's up in the cloud, even cheaper than it was back when we started. So I didn't have a big capital expenditure, so there wasn't a lot of monetary risk for me. For me, the risk was really, I started the business after I got laid off. I got laid off in April 2000 when everybody else in the web design industry was laid off. It was a dot-com bust. Look it up. It's horrible. I got a severance check, and I decided this is my one opportunity. If I get a job, I'll probably do well, but I might be VP someday, but I'll be safe. I'll never try to start my own thing. So this is my one chance to try it. And the risk that I had was really, if I manage my own business for too long, I run out of the skills, marketable skills to put on my resume. I mean, I wasn't learning all the new ways of coding. I was paying taxes and managing employees. And if it failed, I go back out in the job market, I'm unemployable. That was the big risk. But you know what? I had a spouse. My wife was a nurse. She was a pediatric nurse at Grady, so she really took away a lot of that risk. She paid the bills. We had health insurance because of my wife. I mean, it's not like I did it all myself. I had a really good, really good foundation in there.
Sounds like a great support network.
Because of her, it wasn't a lot of that dangerous risk that you hear about.
Absolutely. So you mentioned marketing, and we actually have a lot of students here from our art department, our art college, and we wanted to talk a little bit, for those of you who don't know much about Mailchimp, maybe you could talk to us a little bit about the development of your mascot.
Freddie. So our mascot is a winking chimpanzee with a little mailman hat. Gosh, the origins of Freddie, it really goes back to Regency Mall. Here in Augusta. There was like a booth that sold these puppet monkeys. And I got one as a gift, and I loved that monkey so much, and monkeys were just a part of my brain forever. So anyways, his name is Freddie, and he came from a series of failures. Right? So the idea, innovation is basically lots and lots of failures and learning from those failures and adapting. So I was in college, and I got my first job. I joined the internet economy. And there was a website out there called Blue Mountain Greetings. And I don't know if anybody knows anything about e-cards, but you used to pick a card with a kitten dangling from a tree branch or something, and you send it to a friend, and they'd get a code in their email, and they'd go to the website, and there would be the animation. Sounds crazy, but they got acquired for $600 million by an amazing search engine called Excite.com, which nobody knows what that is anymore. This is before Google. And I was coming out of college and was like, greeting cards, $600 million. And I actually loved to draw greeting cards with my sister back in the day. She would actually go on to work at Hallmark, actually. And I just thought, well, I'll do e-greetings, and I'll make $700 million, because mine will be better than Blue Mountain. So that was really my plan. And so I built a website that would send out e-greetings. And I had to learn the way that I was going to make it better was, instead of entering a code and then seeing your card in the browser, I would send the whole card right in the email. That sounds like nothing these days, but that was radically hard and innovative back in the day. I had to Lycos. I couldn't Google the answer. I had to do so much research to figure out how to do that. And one of the greeting cards that was the most popular was a chimpanzee dangling from a tree branch. Anyways, that idea never paid off. I never got my $700 million from that idea. We shelved it. I got laid off from my real job. I started working for clients. They wanted me to do email marketing. And they asked if I had a solution. And I said, well, we have this greeting thing that's a complete failure. But the scrap code I can just take that and turn it into this new tool. And that's how Mailchimp was born. And everybody wanted a mascot. And so I said, Chimp Mail. So easy, Chimp could use it. Chimpmail.com was taken, so I said, okay. Mailchimp. And so, I needed a mascot, I needed a logo, and I just, I used a data-informed decision. I looked at my greeting site, and I saw the most popular, most loved card was a little monkey, so I took him, and that's how Mailchimp was born. So it's a lot of trial and error. You think I sat down with a bunch of marketing experts. I did a market study. No, it's just I needed a mascot really fast.
No, that's great to hear. A lot of success out of failure. Yes,
there's a lot of tinkering and trial and error. Absolutely.
Yes. So then, with where you are now, what surprises you the most about your job?
Well, my job, I'm a CEO now. It's like thousand plus people. It's a different kind of a job, You get kind of caught up in a lot of conceptual leadership and conceptual management. So real work happens with small teams, meeting with customers and building and designing cool stuff. That's where the work happens. That's, where the rubber meets the road. That's where innovation and creativity happens. When you get 6 of those teams, you have 6 managers. Those 6 managers need a manager, so that's a director. Well, you keep expanding, 7 directors, you need a vice president, okay? And then as a CEO, you're kind of managing a bunch of vice presidents, and you lose sight of what really is business is down there where people are designing and making and crafting. And you get so caught up in all of these policies, and it's necessary. It's necessary for a company that scales. But what always surprises me is how utterly useless that is. And how the real work is really down where people are meeting customers and solving real problems.
So developing relationships. Would you say communication? Okay.
Yeah.
So we talked a little bit earlier about in some of your previous talks, you had said do what you love
love what you do.
Love what you do.
Yes.
And
very important distinction there.
Right. And introducing a little bit of chaos.
Yes.
Can you talk about that a little bit? That it goes along the same lines.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think I hear a lot of people saying do what you love, and I think that's dangerous advice because I see a lot of young people really making sure that they pick that perfect job and they go hunting, and sometimes they hunt forever and they never find anything. I wanted to be a car designer. There were no car design jobs in Augusta. And so I had to kind of find my way, and I got into marketing and design, and I made out pretty good. But I took the philosophy my father taught me, love what you do, and then new opportunities arise from that. So it's backwards, it's really important. Okay, so, and I live by that philosophy now. Chaos, I just sort of say that's where the innovation is. It's like you always have to have a little bit of chaos, a little bit of a mess, and that's just sort of the normal state of the world anyway. We live on a rock. It's hurtling through a universe that's infinitely expanding, like it's nothing but change. Everything changes. It's the only thing you can guarantee is that everything is going to change. You can change too. That's the powerful part of it. It's scary, but it's powerful. Anybody can change. But that's chaos, and it's scary to some people. But if you can embrace the chaos, you can become extremely successful.
Absolutely love that. So you mentioned your father a few times. Would you say that he is the most entrepreneurial influence in your life?
I would say it's a combination. I mean, watching my mother every day serve, the neighborhood, all the other mothers coming in to get their hair done. It sort of gave me a view of entrepreneurship as just a way of life. My sister broke off. She learned from my mother and went off and started a real salon, non-kitchen based, and it was extremely successful up in the big city of Raleigh. So she would come home every month with money for my parents and toys for me. So she was like a real North Star kind of inspiration for me. But also, my father definitely kind of talked about scaling a business. We talked about that all the time. So it's a whole family kind of a thing, I think, you know.
That's wonderful. What would be something that your father would say that we could relate to our students today?
Oh my gosh, my father, he had so much advice driving with him back from the fishing trips. I don't know, you know where he would always take me fishing was right outside of Lincolnton on the Little River Bridge, and he would make me walk out to the bridge and back. Never on the road where it was easy, it was always on the rocks. And I would whine and moan and complain, and he would make me carry these buckets, and he would just keep walking, and I would have to keep up with him. And sometimes I would just cry and moan, and he never appeased me or said anything. He would just stop and wait, and I would catch up to him, and he'd turn and start walking again. And that's life. Doesn't matter how much you complain, just keep on walking. That's the big lesson. It was never a word. It wasn't a sentence he had said, but it was just his actions. It doesn't matter how much you complain, you just have to keep on marching sometimes. Resilience, grit, whatever.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So where would you say that you find inspiration today?
Inspiration, I think, is everywhere. I think it's as long as I have a problem to solve, I'm inspired. I would say probably it's where I recharge that matters, where I rest, and I think that's always in a library. I have this personality where, I can be on and be an extrovert, but my real default state is give me a bunch of books in a library and I'm in heaven. So I think, just reading is where I recharge.
I love reading, yes.
You ever seen the documentary Bill Gates go into his little cabin with his little tote bag of books?
No.
And he's just there all summer? Like, that would be heaven to me.
We recently went on a trip, I think, for the first time to Biltmore, and we got to see their library. And
Oh, very cool.
Oh, wow, it's incredible.
That would be heaven.
If only you could see all the books in there and check those books out. That would be
Yes.
the library of the century.
Yes. This kind of a place would be heaven to me as well, like around innovative people, playing and tinkering and experimenting with things and doing something that, is related to the medical field and saving lives. I mean, I can't think of anything more fun and fulfilling than that. So this place would be a cool place to hang out.
You are welcome anytime you want to come.
Be careful.
We're always looking for innovation. So, would you have any advice for our student innovators in the audience today?
I would say I got a really, really good piece of advice from a client of mine who I was building a website for, and I gave him a discount. He would help me out. He was a recruiter, and I was at a crossroads. I was trying to choose between two big jobs, and one job would give me the title and the pay that I had always dreamed of. But the CEO was a little sketchy to me, and I had a hard time trusting it. The other one was stay with a really good, trusted company. Decent job, but not perfect. But I had a feeling I could grow there. And he told me, life is like you're here and you have a goal that's here. You think it's going to be a straight line, that's what you want. Life is this. And you're always going to feel like you're off track, but as long as you're pointing up and you're gaining elevation and you're getting there, that's what you got to do. So that's what I would share with everybody. Like just keep pushing, keep trying. You're in the field of technology and innovation, and you might see, big city, Silicon Valley stuff. It doesn't matter. Innovation is up here. It's in your head. It can come from anywhere. I'm just a Headquartered boy from Gate 5. Anybody can do it.
Anybody can do that. You guys do that? Anybody. So something that we did not really talk about in our introduction of Ben is he and his wife are wonderful supporters of the community, and things that you probably don't see, you do see every day, but you probably don't recognize that it's him and his wife as part of their family foundation, called the Chestnut Family Foundation. And so first off, I want to thank you for everything that you guys do for our community, especially during the pandemic, because we are watching and we do see what you do. So things, for example, where they bring Wi-Fi or to the rural communities, to schools, that's what we need. We need more things like this in the community, right? And supporting our arts and education. So I wanted to know, where are some things that you would like to see innovation in the community?
Well, thank you for saying that, by the way.
You're welcome.
I mean, I see a lot of people who, they might move off to the big city and they become successful and they want to put their name on a building up there in the big city. And I'm like, I might do that though. I don't judge it. But first, how about I go back to my hometown? Because it took a village to raise me. How about I help my hometown out a little bit? So we got Arts Now, which is an Atlanta foundation. We challenged them to come to Hephzibah and do what they do in Atlanta down in Hephzibah. And they moved it from elementary to middle school, and they're experimenting with high school. And like you said, when the pandemic hit, we got a couple thousand laptops and gave them to some kids with some Wi-Fi hotspots. Anyways, they also continue to do great things. I would say, if you're going to become successful, remember where you came from. In talking to some of the organizations, even here in town, and really anywhere in Atlanta as well, you see great organizations, mostly in dense city areas where more resources are. But you have so many kids out in rural areas who can't get to it. They don't have transportation. So there's a transportation problem. Sometimes if they go to the right school and the school buses are in that district, school buses, you see schools actually getting those kids over there, which is such a noble thing to do. But if they're out of that district, they're not allowed. But that doesn't stop some schools. They're so good, they actually work a way to rig it and get those buses there. But transportation is really tough. Every organization that I've talked to, my wife and I prefer to get the entrepreneurial small ones, They're struggling. They're looking to buy a van or a small bus, and then they got to hire a driver. There's got to be some better way. Is there an Uber for charities or something? I don't know.
Not only transportation for education, but also transportation to have people get jobs.
That's right.
Go to work.
Yeah.
That's in our competition. That's one of the leading problems that we actually ask and provide is a problem that we ask for a solution for from our students in the CSRA. So we definitely would identify that as one of our
Very cool.
things we would like to see solved. Do you have anything else, any other things you would like to see solved in the community?
Well, I think just access to computers. I mean, the only reason that I was really able to succeed is because I always had computers to play with. And so just getting more computing into the hands of more students would be wonderful. I also think that, programs like this are great. Programs like maybe even some technical trade schools would be good too. Not everybody needs to go to a big fancy college. I'd love to see more educational opportunities for people like that too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's all my questions for you, Ben, but I would really like to take this time to open it up to our students who we've invited here today. So if you guys have any questions.
We got a mic.
Yes.
Spread it around. All right, anybody have a question?
I have a question. Mr. Chestnut, my question is, I know you mentioned you had a partner. Can you expound a little bit about how that relationship grew? Was it out of necessity? Did you guys complement strengths and weaknesses? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, a little bit about my founder and how that happened. I would highly recommend, if you have a business idea, get a good partner. I think we were like yin and yang. We balanced each other out really well. I was a little bit more salesman, so I would love to go out there and get projects that were $20,000, $30,000. I could sell clients on it. But after they paid me, and if they called me again, I'd say, "Who are you again?" I wasn't really good. I wasn't a good relationship person. I like things, not necessarily people, right? My partner is a people person. He could talk to those clients. They would send him gifts. He'd remember their kids and their dogs' names, and he could get more revenue from those clients. And so we hit it off early. And I also, he was my first employee, so that's how I knew him. And I just knew that he was a humble, hardworking, ambitious person. And so we just made a good team. And we're still a team to this day. We balance each other out really, really well. Yeah, that tagline, listen hard, change fast. He's listen hard. I'm change fast.
That's great.
Thank you.
Yes, it is.
Hello, I'm Joshua Hale, a student at Augusta University. And I just wanted to ask you, what's some of the best advice that you think you can get to somebody who's starting off a brand when it comes to long-term or short-term setbacks, just so that they can either prepare themselves mentally or physically in advance?
That's great advice. That's a great question. What I remember is feeling stupid every time I had a setback and wishing I had the secret business book that had all the answers, because all the big businesses, they must know. They don't know. Trust me, they have no idea. Everyone on this planet is winging it. There's no playbook. And if you stumble upon a playbook, you're too late. Innovation is when you don't have a playbook. So if you don't have a playbook, by definition, you're onto something really cool. As I became more successful, I got invited to big, fancy tech conferences, and I would come in there saying, my meetings suck. Let me see how this great big company does it. And they would get up and say, we don't know what we're doing. Do y'all have the answer? I mean, seriously, you wouldn't believe the leaders up on that stage who are still winging it. So I would say, you're gonna have mistakes and setbacks. Everybody does. Nobody's smarter. Nobody knows what they're doing. That's actually tremendously frightening, probably. Comforting and scary at the same time, but it's the truth. Just, you can do it. You can figure it out. If everybody else figured it out, you can figure it out too.
Thank you.
Thanks for the question.
Other students? You want to know?
Follow up.
I'll just one more question. What are some general or important goals that you think somebody should have in mind when it comes to starting up a brand, just so that they can prepare themselves for that as well?
Important goals. Every day as a CEO, you have all kinds of little goals, KPIs, quarterly goals. I'm trying to get to the root of it, the real fundamental goals. It was always about customer obsession in the early days. What really got us successful was constantly talking to customers and getting feedback and meeting with as many customers as we could. We would do everything we could to fly out to, maybe we'd go to New York City or San Francisco to talk to a batch of customers. We always made it a point to we would go to Dayton, Ohio as well. We would go to the Midwest to talk to as many customers as we could. And our goal was to listen to as many customers as possible and then go back and change as fast as possible. Listen hard, change fast. I don't know that we really put down goals until you hit product market fit, you have a big team, and you kind of need to manage people to keep people productive. That's when the goals really matter. But in the early days, if you're getting off the ground, it's just innovation and customer obsession. I would say don't get caught up in some of the management stuff yet.
All right, got another?
I think we're just tag teaming it here.
Yeah.
You mentioned Crossing the Chasm. Is there another book that was influential to you, or what's your favorite book?
The one book that really, there's a few. I mean, Rich Dad, Poor Dad is a great one to get started with. The E-Myth is a great book. Michael Gerber, I think is his name, and that one really sets your mind straight about businesses. And then after that, I'd say anything from Jeffrey Moore. He's the same author of Crossing the Chasm. But he has books for every stage of your business. So Crossing the Chasm is probably the most important one, the beginning stage book. And if you become into multi-millions and multi-billions, then get his other books.
Okay. I'll call you.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to ask you a question real quick, then I'll get back to you. You talked about teams and groups a fair amount here today. Can you talk about the role of collaboration in building teams, what it's like to build a team and work with others, and how important that is to innovation?
Yeah. Collaboration. So it's hard. It's extremely difficult. And I would say what really helped us in the early days was small teams. I mean, I think Jeff Bezos has a 1 pizza rule or a 2 pizza rule. So if you take more than 1 or 2 pizzas to feed a team, it's too big already. And I would agree with that. Like you want a really good, fast-moving strike team, and as you get bigger, I think the art is really keeping it small. Lots and lots of small teams, and avoiding as much bureaucracy as you can. But I mean, if you just get a good team of like really innovative and creative people who can riff off each other, there's nothing more satisfying than that. I mean, it's just in the DNA of humans to have just work together, you know? It just feels so good, but it's tough. It's tough to keep it small.
I like the pizza roll. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Did you watch?
Yeah.
Okay, we have a question from the cameraman.
Hopefully I'm allowed to ask the question. But how do you stop your ideas from feeling stupid? With our day and age, it feels like everyone's done everything that there is to do. And with ideas, it's like, well, it feels like someone's already done it before. So how do you stop yourself from not even starting on your ideas? How do you kind of get over that?
These are really good questions here. Yeah, you can feel like everyone's already done everything before. Your idea is stupid. I mean, when I started, think about me. Mine was a freaking winking chimpanzee, you know? And I wasn't the first in my business. There were so many companies out there already doing the same thing that I was doing. Sometimes the success is just hanging on harder than everyone else. People are lazy and they quit. They give up, and it's like what I said, the grit, I think that's what my father made me do, he just made me walk and just march. And I just held on longer than anybody else. And I just said no to all the distractions. It is a sacrifice. I think there's a quote, her name, I don't know if she's related to Mark Zuckerberg, but Renee Zuckerberg says, it's like health, friends, family, business, pick 3 or something like that. The point is, you look it up to find the 3 you have to pick, but like I remember you have to sacrifice something, and I kept family, I kept business, and I sacrificed my health and my friendships. And now I'm catching up, I'm trying to run and get fit again, but like it's a sacrifice you have to make in time. And if you just sort of like wake up earlier than everybody and work harder than everybody, it doesn't matter if you're not original. They'll just give up. No magic there.
Going back to what you were saying about how anybody can, if you set your mind to something, anybody can do it, meaning that you, quote unquote, are just a boy from Pepsi, right?
Yeah.
So I'm from Augusta. I have a son who turns 4 in March, and I'm no longer with his mother. What advice would you give to somebody who may feel limited to the area based on not wanting to move away from their children or child, if that makes any sense?
Well, when I was laid off, I was working in Atlanta because that's where I went to school. I got a job in Atlanta because it was 2 blocks away from my school. I was laid off, and everyone at the time was moving to the West Coast, to Silicon Valley and to the Bay Area. That was where you supposedly, the only place where you could make it in technology. I was stuck in Atlanta. And I had this idea that people told us at the time, with the internet, you could run a business from home. You could run it from your basement. You didn't have to actually have a real office. And that was the spirit that we had when we started our company. So that's why it's like an internet-based business. Just do some research. You could launch them and run them from anywhere, and no one will know. No one will know. It's just you have to, you might have to sort of pick the right industry, but it's possible, especially with e-commerce now.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Hello, I just had another question. I was going to ask, what do you believe is the separating line between businesses that take themselves seriously and then those that don't?
Geez, these are deep. Well, I don't know that I have the right answer to that, but if you read the E-Myth, one of the big pieces of advice that Gerber gives in there is like, if you're really good at something like baking pies, opening up a bakery might not be the best idea for you, because you're going to be so focused on your craft that you love, you're going to lose sight of the fact that business is a thing, it's an art, you have to actually care about the business of pies, and you might hate that. So the businesses that are really serious care about the craft, but they also have people who care a lot about scaling that business up and making it global, making it a brand. I think brand is to me separates $1 million businesses from $1 billion businesses.
Very good. All right, we're going to take one more question, and then it'll probably give us a pretty good time to go ahead and wrap it up here. So we got one more from the cameraman.
So if you were to walk out of this conference right now with nothing, no connections, no money, nothing, and have to start from zero, what would be your first step?
Start shaking hands and meeting people. Try to form some connections with people. As many people as I possibly could, which would not come natural to me. I'm an introvert. But I mean, money flows through people, flows through connections, and you've got to be connected to people.
All right. Well, before we wrap it up, I want to say thank you to the students who are filming this today. These are filmmaking students from AU. This is not professional staff. These are students who work within our TVC lab. Tim Williams, where are you? Right over here, and Art Berger, working with them. So thank you very much. We always appreciate it when we can involve students like this. You guys had some pretty good questions. I'm impressed.
Really.
So thank you, Mr. Chestnut, for being here. Thank you, Lynsey, for asking the questions. Thank you, President Keel, for your support. Again, without your support, we wouldn't be here today. We have more events coming in the future, so if you haven't formed a team yet, please do so soon. All of you are eligible to be in a team. You just have to make a team, come up with ideas, and we'll help you in that process. So thank you very much. Have a wonderful day. Stay out of the ice and snow, and be safe. All right?